In our previous video, we began our discussion about the three content requirements of a lease, and specifically, we were looking at the first content requirement, that of exclusive possession. And in this video, we're going to continue and finish our discussion about the first content requirement of a lease. And then in the next video, we'll begin our discussion about the other two content requirements of a lease. So in the previous video, we said that there are some specific circumstances in which an agreement will fail to confer the legal right to exclusive possession, and exclusive possession, the necessary requirement to confer exclusive possession, is a requirement of a lease. And there are some circumstances where an agreement will fail to confer that legal right to an exclusive possession. And in the previous video, we mentioned one of these circumstances, and that is when occupation is conferred on multiple people. And in this video, we're going to be looking at two other situations where that is the case too. And the first of those situations is where there is grantor third-party occupation. The right of the grantor, a third party, to join the occupant in their occupation prevents the conclusion that the occupant has exclusive possession. So it may be that the grantor reserves a right for himself or a third party to join the occupant in their occupation at some point in the future. When this clause is contained in an occupation agreement, it will prevent the conclusion that the occupant has exclusive possession. This is because when the occupant agreement allows the grantor or third party to enter into occupation alongside the occupant, there is clearly no right to exclude all others. This is so even if the occupant is never in fact joined in occupation. The grantor third party's legal right to join the occupant prevents the occupant from having the legal right to exclude all others from the property. So be very clear of your differentiation between a legal right and what happens in practice. So it may be that the grantor or third party never in fact joins the occupant in their occupation, but that is irrelevant. The point is that the grantor or third party has a legal right to enter into occupation, and this prevents the occupant from having the legal right to exclude all others. So we are concerned with what the agreement tells us and not how things pan out in practice. So let's look at an example. Claire is the registered proprietor of the registered freehold estate in Blackacre. On the 5th of March this year, she entered into an agreement with Bill, granting him an immediate right to occupy Blackacre barn. Clause 2 of the agreement stipulates that Claire's sister, Dorothy, is entitled to move into the barn whenever she wishes and occupy alongside Bill. Does Bill have exclusive possession of Blackacre barn? So in other words, does Bill have the legal right to occupy Blackacre barn to the exclusion of all others? Our problem here is not to do with multiple occupancy, as there is only Bill. Our problem here is the right that has been reserved under the agreement entitling Dorothy to move into the barn whenever she wishes. So Dorothy's right to occupy prevents us from concluding that Bill has the legal right to exclude all others. If Bill does not have the legal right to exclude all others, then he hasn't got exclusive possession of Blackacre barn. Instead, he would have an in personam license. Okay. So a third problem for exclusive possession is a situation where the grantor of the right, usually the person who owns the freehold or maybe even the leaseholder, reserves for themselves extensive access to the property, for example for repairs, for cleaning, etc. The right to exclusive possession is the right to exclude all others, including the grantor of the right, from the premises. A limited right of landlord access for the purpose of repair, inspection, etc. is, however, consistent with the occupant having exclusive possession of the land. Okay, so case law has established that a limited right of access is compatible with exclusive possession. So if the landlord reserves for himself a limited right to pop into the property and check that it's in good condition, then this will not interrupt or prohibit the conclusion that the occupant is in exclusive possession. Extensive access reserved by the grantor for repairs or cleaning prevents the conclusion that the occupant has exclusive possession. Whether access is extensive enough to preclude exclusive possession is a question of degree. This is a bit unhelpful, but fortunately there is some case law that does help us, such as Aslan and Murphy. And Aslan and Murphy, in this case, said this: if under the occupation agreement the grantor is obliged to provide genuine services such as frequent cleaning, daily bed making, the provision of clean linen at regular intervals and the like, there are materials from which it is possible to infer that the occupant is a lodger rather than a tenant. And a lodger is just, a licensee. Okay. So in Street and Mountford, Lord Templeman also discusses this point. Lord Templeman says that an occupier is a lodger if the grantor of the right to occupation provides attendance or services which require him or his servants to exercise unrestricted access to and use of the premises. At another point, he says a lodger is someone who is subject to the supervisory authority of the owner. And Gray and Gray also discuss the distinction between lodger and tenant. They suggest that the essence of the lodger relationship lies in the freedom of the owner to enter the premises at will. So we do have some discussions on this point, and I recommend you checking out the various authorities on that. Now let's look at an example. So we've got the Blackacre example again. So Claire is the registered proprietor of the registered freehold in Blackacre. On the 5th of March this year, she entered into an agreement with Bill, giving him the right to occupy Blackacre Barn. Clause 3 of the agreement stipulates that on the 1st of each month, Claire will spend the morning cleaning the barn and carrying out simple repairs. Does Bill have exclusive possession of Blackacre Barn? So this, of course, will turn on whether Claire's right of access is extensive enough to negate exclusive possession. There is a potential problem in the shape of the right that Claire has reserved to enter the barn once a month to clean and carry out simple repairs. Our question is one of degree. How extensive is Claire's right? We can rely on the dicta in Street and Mountford and in Aslan and Murphy to help us reach a conclusion on this. So we can ask whether Claire has reserved unrestricted access to and use of the premises under the terms of Street and Mountford. We can ask whether she is exercising supervisory authority over Bill. We can see whether her rights of access is akin to that described in Aslan and Murphy. But the right of access that Claire has reserved is very different from that of Aslan and Murphy, as we can see. In Aslan and Murphy, the grantor of the right was frequently entering the property at will and had genuine unrestricted access. This does not appear to be so on the facts in this case, as Claire's access is neatly demarcated. It is not a black and white question, but it appears to me that there is limited access, which would probably not prevent us from concluding that Bill has the legal right to exclude all others and therefore is in exclusive possession. So this neatly wraps up our first content requirement for a lease, that of exclusive possession, and we had a good sort of look into the circumstances in which an agreement will fail to confer the legal right to exclusive possession. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the other two content requirements for a legal lease. So we've looked at it confers exclusive possession of land, and we now need to look at the circumstances in which there is a rent and or a lump sum payment or a premium, and also whether or not it's for a certain term. So that will be the content of the next video. If you have any questions about this video and the first content requirement of a lease, please leave a comment below and make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching.